Water is the most precious creation on Earth. 97% of the total volume of water is the saline seawater. Only 3% is sweet water in the form of snow, lakes, rivers, tank, well and underground water. We have to depend on this small portion of water for our domestic use, agriculture irrigation and industrial purposes. Till the 70s, open wells were in use everywhere. Wastage of water started with the introduction of electric pumps for lifting water. Destruction of forests and inorganic agriculture decreased the percolation of rainwater and hence the groundwater recharge. It resulted in the drying up of open wells. Shallow bore wells were enough in the beginning. Now the drilling is up to 1,500 feet depth. Such a deep well will yield saline water, which is useful neither for drinking nor for agriculture. Even in the hilly regions with heavy rainfall, rivers and streams dry up by December. Acute water shortage is common in summer months for irrigation and sometimes even for drinking. The government has some unscientific plans such as deepening the existing bore wells, drilling more number of tube wells, supplying water by tankers, etc. Now the time has come to pay the price for our mistakes over the decades. The Third World War, if it happens, will be for water. Karnataka stands second, next to Rajasthan in the total area of dry land in India. Even today, we receive almost the same quantity of rain, though the distribution is imbalanced. Average rainfall of Karnataka is 1,135 millimeters. If so, where does this rainwater go? The answer is quite simple. It flows into the sea without recharging the groundwater storage. There could be many reasons for today's water problems, but the exploitation of underground water for drinking and irrigation without any efforts for recharging it is the main reason. Groundwater storage is like a bank account. If you fill it in rainy seasons, you can withdraw it in the summer. Our irresponsible behavior has resulted in the empty water account. Hence, we are responsible for its recharge. We have dug lakhs of bore wells, sometimes up to 1,500 feet in depth. Hardly a few people tried to recharge with various methods. Rajasthan is a model for soil and water conservation for all other states. Strengthening the water sources is the only long-lasting solution for the water problem. Many rivers have started flowing again in Rajasthan by recharging efforts. No doubt, this is possible in other regions also, which receive better rainfall. This documentary film is produced to show the methods for soil and water conservation, roof water harvest, and mainly the borewell recharge with rainwater. Let us discuss the quality standards of pure water. Drinking water must be free from harmful microorganisms. Organic matter and salt levels must be in the safety limit. Potable water should taste good, free from bad odor and color. Total dissolved salts should be less than 150 parts per million. Irrigation water drawn from deep bore wells will have more salt content. It is safe if the pH of such water is between 6.5 and 8.4. It is good if the EC of the water is below 0.7 ds per meter. If the EC is between 0.7 and 3 ds per meter, use the water carefully depending on the soil type. Water with the EC more than 3 ds per meter is considered saline, which is not suitable for irrigation. It is good if the total dissolved salts are less than 450 milligrams per liter. Be careful while using the water with TDS between 450 and 2000 milligrams per liter of water. If it is more than 2000 milligrams per liter, it is not suitable for irrigation. Let us study the methods of in situ conservation of rainwater. Runoff water erodes the fertile surface. Hence, the term soil and water conservation is in use. Leftover eroded hard soil surface of this kind is not suitable for crops. On the other hand, the silt accumulates in the tanks, river basins and dams. This results in the poor storage capacity of dams and creates floods. In situ conservation of rainwater is the best solution for all of these problems. Check dam, the small structure of this kind, is useful for rainwater harvest at the bottom of the hills. No cement is used here. Collected water percolates deep and recharges the groundwater storage. A canal may draw excess water for the other storage structure or directly for irrigation. Fertile soil collected at the bottom of these check dams may be collected once in a year for crop plants. In the hilly regions, cultivated lands are surrounded by forest. Here the small pits are useful for rainwater harvest. Since the rainfall is heavy, 1 or 2 farm ponds cannot hold the entire rainwater. So it is better to dig more number of small pits. If the trenches are made into compartments like this, the rainwater stops and percolates down. The overflow may be diverted to the farm ponds built at the lower parts of the farm. These efforts of rainwater harvest keep the vegetation green even in dry summers. It also improves the water sources of tanks and ponds. This is the farm pond, becoming very common now. Decide the size, depth and number of farm ponds depending on the availability of rainwater. Grow the grass along the feeding canal to avoid erosion and silt deposition. No cement or granite slabs are used here. Water stands for 3 to 4 months after the rainy season apart from percolation. This storage is useful for cattle, nursery and life-saving irrigation for small plants. Plow the land across the slope. Make trenches and bunds of this size if the slope is steep. The trees planted on these bunds will grow fast and healthy without any extra irrigation. The trench will have more moisture, which can support seasonal crop plants. Half-moon trenches of this kind around plants is useful for soil and water conservation. In bigger plantations, ridges and furrows of this type will harvest the rainwater and help for the speedy growth of plants. Growing plants along the fence and leftover spaces is a good practice. This live fence provides organic matter and firewood. Agroforestry is the best and easiest way of soil and water conservation on the farm. These are the systematic bunds on this large farm. Vetiver grass is grown for the stabilization of bunds. This grass has a very strong root system which protects the soil against floods. Excess rainwater collects all along the bunds and percolates. Some farmers dig trenches along the bunds for more storage and better percolation of rainwater. Contour terraces of this type, sand mulching, etc. are other effective methods of soil and water conservation on the farm. In earlier days, this hosepaint industry used to purchase 50,000 liters of water every day. Now, they have built 2 big tanks of this size to store the rainwater available in the surrounding catchment area. They harvest the roof water also. 4 borewells are provided with rainwater recharge structures. It has shown 50% improvement in the water table. Now they stopped purchasing water and this storage is sufficient for the entire year. These efforts of rainwater harvesting have improved the water table in the surrounding villages also. They took up afforestation in fallow lands. This industry has become a model for other industries because of its water conservation efforts. This farmer has adopted roof water harvesting structures for this big building. Roof water, along with the runoff water on the farm, is fed to the borewell. What we have seen till now are the extensive structures for rainwater harvesting. Sometimes the percolated water may not reflect in the water sources of the same farm, or it may take long time to show the clear results. Hence, the systematic structures are developed for the direct recharge of open wells and bore wells. Apart from the runoff water, the roof water can also be collected for storage or recharge purposes. Let us study such structures now. Now we are in Chitradurga, which has the average rainfall of hardly 500 millimeters. Let us see the roof water harvesting system of this big house. A big sump of 53,000 litre capacity is built underground with the building foundation itself. They collect rainwater from the surrounding houses also. The sump overflows 2 to 3 times even in the average rainfall year. They use rainwater for all purposes throughout the year. Rainwater is their preference for drinking. 30 into 40 feet roof yields 50,000 litres of rainwater with 500 millimeter of rainfall. On an average, 100 litres of water is required per day per person. Hence, their storage is sufficient for 3 to 4 people for at least 6 months. Rainwater calculation is like this. 1 square meter surface will receive 1 litre of water with 1 millimeter of rainfall. Hence, 1 acre area will get 4,000 litres. So, 1,000 millimeters of rainfall will yield 40 lakh litres of water in 1 acre of land. Rainwater harvesting structure is very simple. Keep the roof clean. Provide whitewash for RCC roofs once in a year. Avoid pet animals walking on the roof. Clean the roof once before the first rain. Tiled roofs get cleaned themselves with the first shower. See that the first flush is drained out through this separate valve provided for the purpose. The drain hole of the roof is fitted with a pipe and brought down along the wall. Use half-circle drains of this type for tile and sheet roofs. Even though the rainwater is pure, it may get polluted with the dust on the roof. Hence, filtering is essential. Divert the filtered water to the sump or directly to the well. This is the rainwater filtering system. There are many types of filters in use. Some of them are costly as well. But here, the cheapest and most efficient sand filter is in use. 2.5 into 2.5 into 2.5 feet size filter is sufficient for 30 into 40 feet roof. At the bottom of this filter, granite jelly of big size is put to a height of 3 inches. Then a layer of HDPE net. Above that is a small jelly layer of 3 inches height. One more layer of HDPE net. Put wood charcoal layer of 3 inches on it. Again, a layer of HDPE net. Put a layer of clean thick sand at 3 inches height. One more layer of HDPE net at the top. This is sufficient for effective filtering of roof water. Let there be 2 separate storage tanks for rainwater and municipal supply. Let the light not enter the sump to avoid the growth of algae. Use a small motor or hand pump to lift the stored water. Dipping pots every day will pollute the sump water. This stored rainwater keeps good for years together. A major portion of 80% of the total cost of construction is for the sump. The remaining 20% is for pipes, fittings, filters, etc. 25,000 rupees is sufficient for the sump of 50,000 litres capacity if built along with the construction of the house itself.
Shramajeevi Agri Films, the pioneers of agriculture film production. Communication gap is the major hurdle in the development of the farm sector. Visual media has the vital role in bridging this gap between farmers, scientists and technocrats. Shramajeevi Agri Films, the only agriculture film producing company of Karnataka, has brought out many VCDs on agriculture. Accurate, scientific and practical information presented in a simple manner. Our VCDs are Vanilla Cultivation, Grafting Techniques, Agriculture Machineries Part 1, Commercial Dairying Part 1 and Part 2, Pacholi, Beekeeping, Dryland Farming, Pomegranate, Organic Farming Part 1 and Part 2, rabbit farming, mushroom cultivation, emu bird, banana, rainwater harvest and Indian cow breeds. For more details, contact 99805 34320. Email shamajiviagrifilms@gmail.com.
Now we have come to the main part of this film, the borewell water recharge. Let us study the structure of the earth first in brief. Surface of the earth is covered with the soil. Below that is the weathered zone. The next layer is a fractured zone. The central core of the earth is the massive rock zone. Even this rock zone has cracks. The percolated rainwater gets stored in all these layers. This storage itself is called underground water. Thickness of these zones varies from place to place. The open wells, generally of 20 to 30 feet depth, depend on the storage water of the soil and weathered zone. The bore well gets water from fractured and rock zones. If the natural rainwater percolation is good, all the empty space in these layers get filled and yield water around the year. Insufficient recharge will result in the drying up of even yielding bore wells. Hence, we have to make efforts to recharge the groundwater with the help of percolation structures. Water from deep layers of the earth will have more salt content. This hard water is unfit for drinking and irrigation. Salt layer accumulates in the irrigation pipes. This saline water decreases the percentage of germination and also the crop yield. Recharging with rainwater can bring down salinity of such bore well water. Hence, it improves the water yield as well as the quality of water. Recharging is the better option than drilling one more well. It is the cheaper and permanent solution of the water problem. Even the dry wells around the yielding one may be recharged to enrich the groundwater storage. This kind of direct feeding of rainwater will give visible and fast results. Precaution is necessary while following these direct recharge methods. If the polluted runoff water enters the bore well, it will spoil the quality of water. Hence, the perfect filtering system is important. Now, let us study the structure for bore well water recharge. Dig a big pit, keeping casing pipe at the center. Decide the size of the pit, depending on the availability of the rainwater. This farmer has dug a big pit of 25 into 25 into 10 feet. Of course, this is too big, but at least a pit of 10 into 10 into 10 feet dimension is necessary. Fix a clamp like this and put a concrete bed to prevent slipping down of the casing pipe. Drill holes on the casing pipe with the help of an electric drill. On a 6 feet length of pipe, around 150 holes of 8 to 10 millimeter size at 3 inches gap are sufficient. It can percolate 10,000 liters of water per hour. The next main step is to create a filter system. Use good quality aqua and nylon mesh for this purpose. These have anti-insect property to protect it from termites. Ordinary mosquito nets will degenerate quickly and will allow muddy water inside. Bind the pipe tightly with aqua mesh and tie with aluminum wire or nylon thread. Next layer is the nylon mesh. Tie this layer also in the same way. It is good if a sand layer of 1 inch is created in between these two mesh layers. Nylon mesh is stitched into a tube-like structure for this purpose. Do not leave even a single hole drilled on the pipe out of this filter packing. This completes the filter system on the perforated casing pipe. Next step is to fill the percolation pit. Put bigger stones of 1 to 1.5 feet size to a height of 5 feet. Use only hard stones. Soft stones like laterite are not suitable. On this layer, Bigger granite jelly of 4 to 5 inch size is put to a height of 1 foot. Next is the 40 mm jelly layer of half feet. Above that is a layer of 20 mm jelly of half feet. If it is the drinking water borewell, put a layer of wooden charcoal. This is a good filtering material which will remove bad odor of the water. This is not necessary for irrigation borewells. Then put a layer of HDPE net of good quality. It is necessary to avoid sand and soil entering into the lower layers. Mesh should be of good quality with anti-termite property. Put a layer of clean and thick sand to a height of 2 feet. This completes the filtering system of the percolation pit. Put a parapet wall like this around the percolation pit. Retain a single entry point for the water. Otherwise, the muddy runoff water will enter from all sides and accumulate silt in the pit. It is better to grow grass along the feeding canal. Small silt traps are dug along the water canal. Muddy water stops in these pits for some time and only the top clean water flows to the percolation pit. Clean the silt, weeds and organic materials collected in the pit once in a year before the rainy season. The rainwater collects in the pit like this and percolates slowly into the borewell. This improves the yield and the quality of the water. Lift the submersible pump every year to a height matching the rise in the water table. This saves electricity. Construction of this rainwater percolation system is not so costly. Stone, jelly, sand are the materials available locally. Remaining is the labor cost. One may have to spend a maximum of 20 to 25,000 rupees. This recharge structure is permanent if built and maintained properly. Rate of percolation will not come down over the years. This is definitely cheaper than drilling another borewell to meet the water requirement. Let us study another type of borewell recharge pit. Lift the submersible pump to make the casing pipe free. A pit of 5 feet diameter and 10 feet depth is dug, keeping the casing pipe at the center. Cut off the pipe, leaving 1 foot at the bottom. Screen filter of this kind is available for this purpose. It has the coupling on either side and it easily fits to the casing pipe. Place 8 ready-made concrete rings of 1 foot height and 4.5 feet diameter size. Put cement plaster to the ring joints from outside. Then, fix the cut casing pipe on the screen filter. Put a concrete bed around the casing pipe to avoid slipping down of the same. Place the perforated concrete lid on the 8th ring. Then put 2 more rings on it. Fill the 9th ring with 40 mm granite jelly up to 6 inches in height. Then a layer of wood charcoal for 3 inches height. Next 3-inch layer is 20 mm jelly. Above that is a clean thick sand layer of 6 inches height. This completes the filtering system. Silt traps are necessary all along the feeding canal. Clean runoff water flows to the percolation pit and filters down. In case of drinking water borewell, only roof water is fed. The entire space below the 9th ring is empty. Filtered rainwater collects in this space and pressure builds up. Then the water enters the borewell through the screen filter. This method is simple, but the percolation pit is small, which cannot hold the entire water during heavy rains. Filtering layer is also very thin, which may allow the silt inside if it is disturbed a little bit. This method is in practice in low rainfall areas. It costs around 30,000 rupees. Though these methods seem to be very simple, it is better to adopt them under the guidance of concerned experts. Open wells dried up after the 70s. The groundwater table is going lower and lower. Bore wells are also drying up in many areas. Nobody knows the fate of agricultural irrigation in the future. Canal water supply for all agricultural lands is impossible. Joining all rivers of India is difficult in the near future, looking to the political scenario of the country. diverting the rivers against their natural direction, etc., are just the political game plans. Fighting for water after leaving the abundant rainwater to flow into the sea is our foolishness. Water scarcity problem has gone out of our hands already. At least now, we have to start serious efforts towards rainwater harvesting. No life can exist on this planet without water. Better late than never. Let us come together for soil and water conservation to save the precious life on the earth. Let us join hands for this noble cause.